put this up here. Boom. And let's switch to Cubase. Maybe MIDI. Close as well. Did I open MIDI? Yep. There you go. Just in case for later on, if necessary. I think we're good. All right, recording. All right, let's get this started. So there's just for those who are here from the hub, from the group. Thanks so much for keeping it so active, so much participation. That's awesome and so positive. It's great to be in a group where there's so much encouragement and positivity. It's beautiful. So thank you. And for everyone else, welcome to the class. Let's get started. So as we usually do, it's a open Q&A in this case. Sometimes, some weeks we do a specific topic. In this case, again, Q&A. So if you got any question, just raise your hand. Metaphorically, meaning in Zoom, just click the raise hand or ask the question, put it in the chat, whatever works for you.
Jaime, go ahead.
Yeah, Vincent. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much first for the hub thing. Once again, it's really wonderful. And thank you particularly for adding the composer feedback section. That's real awesome because we were actually with Philip, we were to propose the idea, and we could see that gathered many positive things. So thank you very much, because I think it will be very informative and well, it gives really very much positive things to the group. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Just FYI, just so you know, we're gonna today there's gonna be a post explaining, yeah, we've created this section, here's how, suggestions on how to use it and blah blah blah. But yeah, great idea, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I've got a question, and this is regarding momentum and regarding actually the perspective that one can expect becoming a film composer nowadays in our world. So I know this is put that way, it's kind of a very vast subject. I agree. Let me maybe specify a little bit more. Well, to put it simply, I've got a vivid example in my mother-in-law. Actually, she works for a company who does shows that are broadcast on France television, and the problem is that, well, I spoke to her about the momentum course, because actually I'm very interested to enroll, and I'm really thinking of it. The problem is that, our resources, financial resources, are limited, and I was just wanted to make as sure as I can be that that would be valuable to a professional perspective, because my mother-in-law told me that most of the shows today, at least in France on television, that should it be credits, documentaries, commercials, everything that doesn't really need maybe a music composer. Actually, the producers tend to prefer and go for public domain music that is free to illustrate their thing, rather than hire the services of a music composer that will cost them more. So, but I'm aware that it must be really for France that that she speaks about, and I just wanted to know what was the situation worldwide. I think I mean, does it make sense nowadays uh, to think, okay, I want to be a professional music composer. I want to make a living of it, no matter hard it can be. But I don't see if you see what I don't know if you see what I mean. But
Yeah.
what's the perspective? Because I mean, I'm I'm really interested in momentum, but I wouldn't like to pay for it if it doesn't go anywhere, you know.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. My answer would be at like first of all, I wouldn't just don't think about momentum at the moment. Um, I would start there. Like the first thing is deciding if you wanna go for it and understanding if the reality of the industry is something that you want for you. So let's start talking about that. In my opinion,
okay.
and then momentum is just a tool, a pathway that can get you closer. And if you are considering momentum, the version that that we there's like the $14,800 big number version on the website.
Mm.
We
Mhm.
also have a smaller that's with the big complete package. It
Yeah.
includes everything that's described there. We've got a way smaller package, and maybe you want to consider that. I think it's 1,500, so
Yeah, it's
1,500.
the 1500, yes.
If
Yeah.
you were to consider momentum, I would start there.
Mhm.
Unless you want like the big, full blown out VIP kind of like version of momentum. So
Okay.
that's momentum. The Is it possible to make it as a composer, and make a living as a composer? So, and how different is it? It is in the U.S. or in Spain or France, Italy, whatever different countries in the world. So, what I can talk about is my experience and the experience based on I've got many friends living here in Hollywood and their experience. So financially speaking, obviously, in my opinion, this is not the most lucrative career that you can go for. There are
Mhm.
many other things that will bring you so much more money.
Mhm.
Potentially, like there's nothing easy in life. I think we as composers, artists in general, we are not doing this because of money, even though we need money to survive and to keep doing this. So it's nice, but it's not like we are not financial investors, or we are not, right. It's different, right? We love to create. We love to find some sort of like musical problem and find a solution to that problem in a way, which is, I think composers are kind of like an artistic entrepreneurs. So it's a problem solver. We love creating. We love
Yeah.
art, and that's why we can spend hours in front of the computer or the score or the piano, and
Mhm.
it just flows. So that being said, we still need to be able to make a living doing this craft, and so making a living, in my opinion, is going to be different depending on where you live. France is not the cheapest countries in Europe. When I lived in Spain, and I lived in a small town called Peñíscola, it's a small touristic town. I was paying between $300 to $400 in rent, euros in rent, and I was still not married with Ali, but we didn't have kids, and our life expenses, they ranged around like $1,000 maybe a month, and we were both working part time. So to me, as a composer, I was doing sort of like a movie every 2-3 months, and these movies to me. And now let's talk about the type of projects that you could get. To me, Spain, I'm talking 2010, 11 till 2016. that those first 6 years before I moved back to the US, um, those were my initial years as a composer. And so I was doing about those 3 4 movies a year, and those were very um some of my first movies. These were, and I loved, and I was so grateful to be working on those projects. The typical Lifetime Channel, Hallmark Channel, like a TV movie. Like I think in France is Channel One, things like this. Yes, this type of movies that you would see in Channel One at 4 p.m. in the afternoon on a Saturday. These kind of movies, right?
Yeah.
And so those would pay me between $5,000 to $7,000. It's not a lot, but for me back then was enough, and I did 3 or 4 of these a year. So we're talking between $20,000 to $30,000 as a composer with upfront fees, and then after that, these movies, especially in France, for me back in 2010, but also Spain, not as much in Italy and in US, good royalties for me. So back then I was with Sky, which is the Spanish PRO, and I would make an extra $12,000 just on royalties. So that's me. Back in 2010, in 2016 I moved to the US. It was hard initially for us, financially for Ali and I, more expensive country, you know. Because of that, we launched a course. We start cinematic composing, and I divide my attention both cinematic composing, my composing career. Then we had 2 kids, so now I've got 3 focuses. So to me, it has my career as a composer since 2017 18. I decided it's not going to be I'm gonna go for the Oscar. I decided I'm gonna continue to do this because I've got a huge imposter syndrome. Unless I continue to be working professionally, I shall I don't deserve teaching, or I just, it's kind of like this self-actualization thing for me. And so I continued to do this type of movies, and now at the moment I continue to do this type of movies, and I get paid between, these days, more like $8,000 to $10,000 per movie. And the reason why I continue to do this type of movies is because I love to work with the team. I feel very grateful to be working with this team of people. They respect me, my music, and it's just joy. It's fun. It's
Yeah.
generally these days, because of life gets more complicated, I share royalties. In this case, I did the last movie, which we just finished yesterday, with Dirk Ellert, and we split everything. So I make less money as a composer because I generally now split everything with other composers, which is a lot of fun. And let's go. And then I'm going back to the fun part. I enjoy working with Dirk. The last one I worked with Nathaniel Bloom, and I enjoy working with them so much. And I feel privileged to be able to work with such wonderful composers. I learned working with them. So to me, it's such a pleasure. The pay at the moment, living in LA with 2 kids, would not be enough if I put together the upfront plus the royalties. But I haven't pursued my career seriously as a composer. So that's where I am now. Friends of mine that moved to LA 10 years ago, they are making it as a composer. They just bought a house. They've got 1 or 2 kids. So it is possible. It's definitely possible, but it's not easy. It's just you put the focus. Cody, one of the original Momentum students, so that is a year and a half ago, told me a couple of months ago, hey, I just got my first real project. They are paying me $7,500, and I'm gonna be working with them for this project, and I've signed for 2 more projects. And he was like, I feel for, he was doing over during the day and then composing in the afternoon night. In small little projects, game jams and things like this. Didn't pay a lot, so he was surviving for the first year and a half, and then
Yeah.
he now recently started, feeling a little bit more like, now this makes a little bit of sense. Still surviving. It's not like grand life or anything like this, but I would say realistically, I have and I'm a very impatient, entrepreneurial type of personality. I want things done now as soon as possible, and I surround myself with people that think like me, operate like me. So my team, or I'm privileged to be around people in the cinematic composing team that are just so efficient, get things done real quick, and it's, we say it and it's done the next hour, the next day. And so when it comes to finding movies, to me, I operate in the same mentality. If I want a movie, I want to move it as fast as possible. So I go all, I to me it's like it has to be, it's now or never. And so I remember that to me getting my first real movie, it took me 3 months, something like this. But realistically, and it's possible, right? You just do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we can discuss the systems and this the contacts, the people, the emails, the cold calls, etc., right? But realistically, year and a half, 2 years is what you should expect, in my opinion, to once you feel confident as a composer that you have the skills, and once your music is at the level that is expected to work in these initial projects, then
Mm.
I think, because Corey it's an amazing composer in my opinion, great production value. It took him a while. He lives in the US, and that's a point, because sometimes these
Yeah.
days it's more rare that they're like, oh, if you don't live in town, like, you're not serious. It's these days after COVID, this is no, it's generally not a problem. But sometimes
Yeah.
living in Europe, having to, the invoice Europe instead of invoicing the US locally, sometimes it can be a little more complicated. Not big
Mm.
deal generally, but still he was living in the US, and it took him, great composer, great production value, still took, and focused 100% in making it happen, still took him like a year and a half. So that's what I see realistic. And many
Mm.
composers who move to LA, generally there are two ways of doing this: either you work for someone else or you find your own projects. Generally,
Mm.
composers do a hybrid. Will work for someone else to live in an expensive city, right, where you have to afford $2,000-3,000 a month just to live. Um,
Mm.
it could be cheaper if you are subletting, sharing a house, a room, blah blah blah, the whole thing. But as you're starting out, generally finding an assisting gig or additional music, or generally it's going to be an assisting gig while you start working on getting your own projects. This is the first 2, 3, 4 years, and then at some point you start working on your projects. You get an opportunity, it grows a little bit bigger, and then 7, 8, now you've got some financial stability. And then if you moved at your 20s, now you're 30 something, right? And now you can maybe afford a nicer rental, or maybe you can start investing in a house, or you keep the rental and you have your first, you start a family, things like this.
Okay.
So I've seen this happen, and this is my analysis. We could talk more if you've got more specific questions, but that's my analysis of a decade in LA. But I've got many friends who make it happen. I was speaking with Orlando the other day. He bought a house recently, with like a year ago. They just had the first kid, Orlando Perez Rosso, from Colombia, great composer. He did the music for the last Minions, for short movie for Illumination. He
Yeah.
bought the house in a market right now, right here in the U.S., with very high interest. He shares with me the price of the house. We at some point were in a similar situation, and I asked him, and she works full time, and he's a composer, so full time composer. But you know how this goes, and it's like, and I look at the numbers. I'm like, so the financial stability, like, where's the money coming from? Like, because just think U.S. a house right now in LA, it's hard to find it under $1 million. But just look at the numbers. 7.7 interest rate. So that means you're paying between $5,000 to $8,000 a month just for loan, right? And then on top, and and he said something that I think it's very wise, brave but wise. It's like, for the past decade that I've been here, you always make it happen, right? And that's something that Ali Alicia also tells me. It's like, we've always figured it out. Like, no matter how bad it's been, we've always found a way. And I think as an artist, as a composer, because it's not an steady job, there's always peaks and valleys, right? And you are thinking, well, if I have to pay this 7K a month just for loan, kind of thing, right? What happens if I've got 3 months no work, right? How many reserves do I have? And you have to think about all these financial decisions based on your creative composing career. And then it's when things get a little bit complicated, because you supposedly came here to do something that you love, that you want to do, and now you're gonna start doing things because you have to pay for that. And so that comes that moment where it's like, Well, I don't
Yeah,
love it that much right now because now I have to do it. It's not that I want to do it; it's I
yeah,
have to
yeah.
do it. So,
That's a
but
very good point. Yes.
so and he told me we always, like every year I've done a little bit more money, a little bit more money, and it's been like
Yeah,
this for the
yeah,
past decade, year after year. So
yeah.
I just I continue to do what I love, and I trust that I'll work out because if I focus
Mm.
on the scarcity, right? If I focus on the scarcity, then
Yeah,
you focus on abundance, creativity, financial, and then everything
yeah, yeah.
grows. It's not just as simple as that. There's always peaks and
Mm.
valleys, but you have to believe, otherwise it won't work out. There's a lot of so talented composers who will never make it because they never got started because it's scary, but that fear stopped them from getting started.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you very much. But
yeah.
yeah, just to sum it up and to close the subject because I don't want to hold this time too long. But what I meant is simply to actually make a decent living, not necessarily be terribly rich. I'm not interested in that. I mean, I've got a wife, I've got 3 kids. And that's all. All I need is at least 2,000 euros a month. I know that where I live in France, it's like that, and that would work. That would be enough. And I'm just asking for that. If it's more, it's more. I mean, I won't say no, obviously, but just to make a sort of minimum and to let our family live, and that's all.
3K a month could be like those 4 movies initially, like the a small or starting type of project, like the TV. I like TV movies. Is they're not the best stories ever, but and it sometimes can feel more like a product than an actual piece of art because they produce so many of these. But because they produce so many of these, it means that
Yeah.
like last year I've done between there was a period that last year I did 4, but in a period of 12 months I did 5. And it's because if you do a good job with this producer, they keep calling you, and they
Mm.
literally that director does 6 a year because it moves so fast, and so it's good. I like that you do the movie and then next month they release. It's fun to see and so anyway, TV movie 7K for you for a year, we do it, and that means one every 3 months. And that is like you work 1 month and then the other 2 months you try and build relationships and then you work 1 month, things like this. So that would be
Yeah.
an start if you like the kind of project. It could be a good starting point. Video game, and then you've got royalties. Those do a lot of royalties because they get
Yeah.
aired and released so many times, and so that's good. And they do pay royalties. Those do pay
Mhm.
royalties depending on where
Yeah.
it goes. It goes if like the Canal One or Channel One or
Mm.
Lifetime. Things like this will pay more. Netflix, Amazon Prime, and things like this will pay less. But on average, they do pay.
Mm.
So there you go.
Okay.
Video games pay more, but no royalties, depending on what you like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Cool.
thank you very much.
Great question. I hope this was useful for the rest of the group.
Yeah.
More
Thank you.
questions? Jaime?
Hi. Blessing to you and to all of you. I am from Puerto Rico. Sorry with my little English.
Don't worry.
I have I have two quick questions. I have Cubase, Studio One, Reaper. Okay. If I record at 128 buffer size, I make a CC expression. When I change to 1088 for mixing purpose, that message can change the behavior or the latency.
Yes, it could. That's a great question. But generally, Reaper, Cubase, Studio One, they will compensate. So but because on top of that, when you start adding plugins, each plugin will add more latency and different latency to different channels, and sequencers these days will compensate. Obviously, when you are changing to 1080 28 for mixing purposes, so you can load more plugins, blah blah blah. you will hear a latency. So when you stop, there's that kind of like 0.1 second of latency that you'll feel, but again, no big deal for mixing purposes. So it's no problem. The sequencer will compensate for all of this latency and changes and things like that. Does this answer your question?
Okay, and I see a video of you, and my question is, why you use the gains knobs instead the faders to the balance?
So the reason, that's a great question. I get it sometimes. The reason why when I am composing, I generally balance with gains instead of balance with just the regular fader. I usually have all my faders at -6, -12, right, and then I balance with gains. It's just a personal preference. The reason, the tangible tactical reason why I do that is because balancing with gain allows me to control input gain into the channel, and if I've got dynamic control plugins like compressors, limiters, etc., I prefer to adjust accordingly to be able to control how hot the signal goes into the channel for the compressor to compress more or less, etc., things like this. So I prefer doing it that way when I'm balancing an orchestral template. That's the only reason. But I could very well have all the gains at 0, then adjusting the input depending on how much I need, the compressor to hit or things like this, and then do the actual balance into the faders. But just personal preference. I've been doing it generally. For a point in my life, I used to sonorizar bandas, like I was doing mixing for for small local bands, for live performance, and generally all the balance would happen in the gains, and so comes or I was taught from my mentor to balance with gains for that particular scenario, for live music, for small bands, and I think it comes from there. But it could be either way. To me, it works with gains, but you could do it with balance, no problem, with the actual fader.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Jaime, un abrazo. Chao, chao.
Igual. Bendiciones.
All right, Santers.
Yes, hello,
If
Mark. How you doing today?
Good. Sorry if I pronounced your name not correctly.
You said it well. You said it good. It's Salters. Thank you. I just had two questions. East West Composer Cloud. I have that under the educational. Is that good for composition, cinematic? The second question, Cubase. I'm new to Cubase, but I'm seeing Wave Station, Nuendo, and Wave Labs and Dorico. Should I get them all? Should I start with Cubase and then learn the other ones? Is there anything that's good aligns well with what we're doing with the composing? Thank you.
Great two questions. So East West is a great starting point. I still use some of the libraries. In my opinion, they've got fantastic orchestra. So they've got a lot, but when it comes to the orchestral side of things or the cinematic side of things, they've got great libraries. I personally, for the purely orchestral libraries, I think, and they've updated them partially, but generally what they have is very old, not in a bad way, old recordings, okay, and then newer coding, so they have rebuilt them, so they are easier to use, the legatos work better, etc., etc., but they are all recordings. What this means is that now the recording quality of a sample has not changed that much over the past decade and a half. This is a recording. It's a recording, just like the mics have not improved, the conversion hasn't improved that much, so it's a good, if the sound quality of that note, let's say, is good, then it's good. Now the sampling techniques do have improved over years, right? And so the level of detail in recording legatos, the round robins in the legato itself, things like this. So that has changed. Things that they didn't do like a decade ago, just because first it was a newer industry, and second, the computational power to actually handle more detail when it comes to recording, and then triggering those many samples was not there, or you needed a really powerful computer. So libraries back then used to be more simple. In built in construction means that they sound a little bit less realistic, which is not a bad thing. it also means that they are easier to use. So all the recordings generally, they are not going to sound as realistic. East West has been partially re-recording things and including them into those orchestral libraries, like legatos and things like this. But in general, even though they sound phenomenal, it's a slightly older, sample pool. But that could be fine. Still, they sound
Thank
great. So that's that.
Thank you.
And then Cubase, Cubase is great. Like Hans Zimmer uses Cubase. There are many, like 40-50% of the most renowned composers use Cubase. The other half will use Logic, and then there's a Studio One, Reaper, etc. that are fantastic. To me, different sequence or these different DAWs is the same thing, just the same buttons, just placed in different places. They all do the same these days, and they copy each other when there's a feature of one that makes a lot of sense or resonates with the audience. The other ones will implement it, but they all do the same thing. Some look a little bit kind of like simpler, like Logic. You're like, wow, this makes sense. Sometimes for some people, like Dirk says that Logic is illogical, but because he's a very heavy Cubase user, so it makes no sense for him. But see, you just pick the one that resonates with you, and then just get to know that one so you can compose fast. Because at the end of the day, composing is three things. It's like the blockages that you've got, the composing creativity, like blockages that you have, the imposter syndrome, blank page syndrome, like it's not good enough, it has to be a masterpiece type of thing, right? Before you start composing, then the actual skill that you have as a composer. Am I able to do this? Do I have the knowledge to compose? And then the technical friction. So technical friction, when you have these first two figured out, technical friction is still a big thing that can slow down your composing process, and it comes down to actually get to know your sequencer. Cubase is a fantastic sequencer. If you like it, get to know it, and the more you know it, the less friction you'll have, the faster you'll compose. Nuendo is just a bigger version of Cubase. Some composers use it, but for most of what you're gonna do, you're not gonna need it. Jorico is the score editor version of Cubase or Nuendo. Is if you need to create a score to record with an orchestra, depending on the level of you as a composer or the budget of the project that you are working on. Sometimes you may not actually be doing the score. You'll do the composing because you're in a tight deadline or a tight project schedule, and then someone else, an orchestrator, will take your music and will create the score. In my case, to be completely honest, for the past I've done scores, but for the past since 2012, 13, something like this, I'm not the main orchestrator. I don't do composing and then I orchestrate. I generally have someone else doing the orchestration for me, if there's actually a big enough budget and timeline to actually record with an orchestra or to do some recordings. So I will focus on Cubase or whatever sequencer DAW that you feel comfortable with. Just pick one, go with that one.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
All right, Salters, thanks. Great question. I've got 20 minutes to go. Thanks again for those who have joined a little bit late. Means the world to me to spend this time with you. A bunch of nerds in a room talking about topics that we all love. So it's a pleasure. Thank you for joining. Hope that you're getting value. Today's class is open Q&A, so feel free to. You usually go for 1 hour. It's 8:10 here in LA. In 20 minutes, it's gonna be kind of like the end of the class. If you got any question, just raise your hand or put it in the chat, and just go for it. Let's see them. Fede, is there any question here in the chat worth that I should be answering?
There was a question about yearly conference for composers. Is Taxi
Tax is one.
an option?
Yeah.
I will share the link for that.
Okay. All right. Philip. So thanks for the Q&A. My question is, do you already perceive some impact of generative AI on music industry? Thanks, Fede. So AI kind of like, I think was Vincent that posted it in the hub, a help or a threat, something like this in the group. Uh, have I noticed it? No, no. Me personally, no, no. Could it be a threat? I don't know. It could be. Um, I maybe I am being a little bit in Spain we say irresponsable, like non-responsible, not paying too much attention. I don't have a very informed. So the answer is no. I don't have a very informed answer to this because I just don't pay. I don't pay that much attention. Just there's a lack of focus and time. My focus and time is going somewhere else. I've got I've got two kids. They are 4 and 5. They're growing fast. I've got cinematic composing, which is a wonderful thing that has happened for us, and it's a privilege to be every Thursday with a group like you, plus everything else that's happening in cinematic composing, the access that cinematic has given us to bring people, like Chris Young, Dennis Sands, all these big names to participate and to help grow, or share knowledge or give access to knowledge that wasn't available before, um, and my composing career. And I feel so privileged and happy that those are the three things that I've got, which is where I put most of the focus and and time to make them grow as much as possible. And so that there's AI, I haven't paid that much attention. I last year was my most busy year that I've ever had as a composer, and cinematic composing keeps growing. So I haven't put that much time to look into it, but so far, I guess, yes, I guess like I use it for text processing, summarizing and all this, and I use it for graphic design and things like this as well. And I see that like the big impact, the things like you know, uh, AI for generative images, and how like very simplified version of Photoshop like Canva are integrating AI, making it more powerful, and how I personally sometimes when I need a design, it's faster for me to go in there and do it than actually explaining it to a designer. So I can see how the same thing could happen for music as well. I'm not being naive, but so far, and I think it will affect. But at the same time, it also for the good graphic designer, they'll be able to use these tools so they can deliver better results for their clients. And I guess for composers, and I know pro composers who are actually using the tool to. There was a comment in the hub. It's like that they just finished a project, and some of the cues they have been using help from AI to enhance their music. So I see for me it more as as an assistant, as a help, than as a threat right now. Even though I can imagine that it can be partially a threat. So that's me. But so far hasn't affected me that much. I hope that this answers your question. Okay, let's go with Dan first and then Mario. Okay, cool, awesome. Dan, go ahead.
Hi, Mark, Daniel. Hi. Greetings from Spain.
Hey, Dan.
A question regarding particular to Spain market. You said you created some kind of what is Tipi? I never heard about the term Tipi. So this is not the question, but it's more the question. Could you have addresses or contacts where you would think it would be good to approach sending your reels in order to finding a job? That's first thing, and the other thing goes then in quality. So what quality, I mean, what kind of expectation these guys would have in order that you got a deal, that you got a job, because this because having a lucrative possibility with upfront money when you're creating movies and you're having also the PROs afterwards. That would be a brilliant idea. So that's my
Awesome.
question.
Great questions. Thanks, Daniel. So the what I did, so in Spain in particular, what I did, I have not had a very successful career as a composer working in Spanish projects. I think I've never actually tried very hard in Spain. I did start as a composer in Spain with short movies and things like this. What happened to me is that when the directors and producers that I worked with when they were starting out, um, they always had me in their projects for the short movie and the second and the third and the fourth short movie. Then maybe they did their first feature, like independent feature film, and they had me with them. But then when they had the big hit, the production company or the distribution company who was founding that movie wanted a director, but a different composer. They didn't have any say, and so I lost the contact there or the opportunity there. So that has happened to me 3 times, and that's very typical. It's not a big deal. It's just the way it is. Sometimes you get lucky, and the director is like, "There's no way I'm gonna do this project without my composer. My composer work goes with me wherever I go." I did not get that lucky those 3 times in Spain in particular. So, but what I did in Spain or how I started in Spain, and that was the very beginning of my composing career. I was very lucky and very grateful. I was initially as a student. I attended, film music festivals and also like film music talleres and things like this, like workshops and things like this in Spain. And I met some of the composers in the Spanish scene. One of the composers that I had as a teacher once was um, Arnau Bataller, and he was very very kind of like some of the short movies that he couldn't do back then. He gave them to me, and I got 3 or 4 short movies that was 2007 or something like this, that I started doing as a composer very young in my early 20s, thanks to Arnau Bataller. Some of these grew to those, the independent feature film. So that was what I also did. So that was one of the most important things. Going to work with things like this, learn from people, connect with people inside the music industry, and getting help from them initially to me. Then what I also did was like no, I'm gonna do my own thing, and I'm gonna be proactive, and I'm gonna search for my own thing. I'm just not gonna depend on the help of someone else. And so I just went to Barcelona, Madrid, and I, with my demo reel back then was literally a CD, and I visited the biggest production companies in Spain, and you just send them an email, and if you are proactive to actually go there to the train with Ali. We went there, we visited some, and we got to know them. And it's just obviously you don't get anything out of that first day, but you connect with them, you stay in touch with them. You are not too intense with the communication. You're not writing them every week, right? Just once a quarter or something like this, or if you remember their birthday or things like this, you'll just keep in touch with the person who you met that day. And so I did that several times, and that led to also when I moved to LA, some of the Spanish production companies that co-produce with other production companies here in LA, they have an office here, so I would visit them here in this office, right? Generally, when you are doing this, you need 2 things. One is going to answer your question: what's the expected quality of your production quality? And the production quality has to be like industry standard. Like you have to be able to produce at the same level that you hear soundtracks being produced. Like you obviously not Hans Zimmer, John Powell, Alan Silvestri type of, because that is not their production level. That is a $1 million, $2 million, investment in the music production, plus the composer fee. But just the production is the orchestra and the mixing engineers, the mix, it's everything, right? So that production level is a team of hundreds. That you're not gonna match that, but you can get close. You can get 90%. That extra incremental marginal 10% is the extra $1 million, right? But you can get that 90%. So with everything that it's online that we teach and things like this, right? So high quality, like soundtrack ready. So once you have so you need two things. You're gonna need number one. So you can actually meet with production companies. The bigger the production company, I did the same thing here in LA, and there are some production companies that they will not even open the door for you, right? You cannot. So, but in Spain, generally, yes, you can go in there, you can meet with someone, you can have a 1 hour meeting, you can do things like this. That doesn't mean anything. They have their team, their composers, etc., and they used to work with the directors, composers, and they just met you. It's good, but you're not gonna get the project. But you stay in touch, right? And you actually the higher you go, and that happened to me when I met with some of the Spanish production companies that co-produce movies here, and they have an office in LA. When I meet with the people here in LA from these Spanish production companies, they generally ask who's your agent. And that's the second thing. So first is your craft, your music, production value. And the second thing is going to be who's your agent. And back then, it was very funny because back then I did not have, I had an agent for a while. I don't have an agent now. And back then when this happened, I didn't have an agent. But I used to say like some very Spanish sounding name. Like, oh, it's one of the most known Spanish agents, and I would say, you know, Jose Ramirez, whatever, right? And they, because they were in LA, it's like, oh, I guess this makes sense, right? So at least to continue the conversation, because otherwise, when you say I don't have an agent, I could see how they are, you know, like ending the meeting and the conversation quick because they're very busy people, right? So I did that several times, but that is going to be a blockage once you reach a certain level, and that's just the way it is. And then that's the whole discussion of how to get an agent, and you do not get an agent. They said you do not contact an agent. They contact you when you are ready, because an agent is meant is someone who's there to make money, not in a bad way, right? There's a business side of things in this industry, and they are the money making agents. That's what they do. They connect people with people based on talent, but there's a project that are meant to be profitable. They're in that, and they ensure the quality of, if you work with my composer, your project is going to be successful, hence it's gonna make money. But they get a cut of that. So if you are not working on projects, if you haven't proven them that you work in big enough projects that actually make money, it's like if you don't work in $100,000 project or $20,000 project, whatever it is, that they are gonna get that 10%, that's $2,000 or $10,000 for them, then it makes no sense for them investing time on, you know, putting the time on getting you the bigger projects. So that's why you like, if you start calling agents, that's a no in the industry. So the agent is gonna be necessary at some point, but not to get started. You know, those movies that I work on, they prefer you not having an agent, because an agent is also means just more complications. They want to speak with the composer directly. End of a story. Here's the agreement. Here's the pay. Okay, yes, great. Okay, let's write some music. With bigger projects, you will need an agent. So that's that. And how I contacted them is just in Spain, you just, you know, look for the movies that have been released, like the biggest movies of the year in Spain. And you go to IMDb or IMDb Pro, look for the production company. In IMDb Pro, I think it's like $20 a month, something like this. You'll find the phone number and the email. You just give them a call or shoot them an email, and they start from there. The same thing you can do here in the US. That's how I got my first US movie production. I just literally Googled like Los Angeles TV movies production companies, and I got a list. I think it was called LA 411, something like this. That list got later on bought by Variety Insights, but back then it was a free list, and I just copied and pasted it into a spreadsheet, and I started calling one by one. That was in 2010. I was in my 23, I think, and yeah, just calling, and after 3 months, I got my first movie.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question. Un abrazo, Daniel. All right.
Gracias. Muchas gracias a ti. Gracias. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Ciao. And we had Mario.
Yes, Mark.
Ah.
Regards from Castellón.
¡Hey! ¿Qué pasa?
¿Cómo estás, hermano?
Muy bien, un
Bueno,
abrazo,
good.
gracias.
Gracias. I'm so glad to be in touch with you. It's a pleasure and an honor, really. And hello to everyone. Mark, I'm a pianist, and all my life I was playing live concerts, jazz, tango music, rock in my early years. But I'm really looking forward to be involved in the cinematic, field. So I have no idea. So I need your directions if you can give me some tips on how I should prepare a demo, for example, to show up to agencies, or what kind of matter I must to be focused on it. Can you give me some directions on to start in this new field for me?
Absolutely, yes, 100%. So preparing a demo. Okay, so
What kind of music, for example?
so
Uh,
there's a lot to talk about demos. First of all, let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, what type of projects would you like to work on? You said like movies. Is there any specific type of movies that you'd like to work? It's more animation type of, or it's more like action?
Well, I just did in my life maybe 2 or 3 short videos, like 2 3 minutes videos of no movies, but kind of short films, right? And I'm feeling confident with the action movies, or maybe how I can say. Something more classical than traditional movies, let's
Okay.
say.
Okay, so well, I think the first most important thing is what you are doing, which is okay, defining what type of project I'd like to work on and what type of movies I'm passionate about. At the moment, for example, if I were to put my focus on trying to get a new type of project or to go to the next level in my composing career with the 2 kids and so much animation that I look, um,
Right.
I would go for children animation TV shows most likely,
Mhm.
just because of the obvious reason of I'd love to be in a TV show with my kids and I've composed the music. Plus, it also I may like the type of a story, whatever, right? So if I went to that, first is defining what do you want. Great, awesome. Because then second is kind of like cutter demo reel that speaks to that type of project, because at the end of the day your music may be special, better or different than other composers, but there's and that is the first driver, the most important thing that's going to separate you from other composers, the actual music. That's very important. But there are other elements, which is, are you passionate about this? Like, they want to work with someone who actually enjoys working this type of project, because let's not forget, this is a creative endeavor what we're doing, but it's a team effort, and you want to be, and they want to be surrounded with a group of people that feel passionate about the same project, right? Like, you could, the type of movies that I do, you could talk, like, just you could look at the movie and you're like, well, like, bro, this is a bad movie. Like, this is bad. Like, oh my gosh, right? But we are all in the team. We are so passionate. It's like, oh, the chemistry between the actors is so good in this one. The acting, that's actually good. Hey, this one. So we are all very passionate about each project, and we feel proud. And so that's exactly what they are. They will also want to work with people that is passionate about working on a project that they are also working on. So that's important. So define the type of project, cater your demo for the type of project that you want to work on, and then, so that's the strategical things. The more tactical things,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
How long will be the demo, for example? Talking about the demo specifically, I will need some image, right? And
Eh,
the audio.
yes and no.
Or
Yes and no. That's a good question. It's a fantastic question. Thanks for bringing that up. So, do I need a video? Do I need to show them a video? So yes and no, but more no than yes. Generally, I try to avoid video. I just send music, and most of people will send just music, unless very specific thing. Generally, if we send a video, it's like, let me show you that I can score. they
Right.
they already expect, or they expect that you can score. They want to listen to your music because they want to close their eyes, let's put it metaphorically, and imagine your music with their project. That's it, right? They
Okay.
want to find. It's like, I don't know, like if you have ever been video editing, right? And it's an informal family video, maybe, and you are now
Right.
composing the music, and you go on Audio Jungle or some sort of like free royalty music, blah blah blah, to just find the cue. You are like just playing cue until you find the one. Oh, this is the one that works. Just drag it and it works. That's exactly what they are doing. They are trying to find the tone, the style, the type, the texture, whatever it is that works with their project. So you're gonna send them your music, your demo, and if there's one track there that resonates with them, with the story, with the project, etc., that's your ticket to get that particular project. If it, and But then we are talking now. So there are two types of demos. There's the reels and there's the demos. There's sometimes you do a demo reel for a specific project. Sometimes it's a general or generic demo reel or reel composer reel that you send to the production company just to present yourself as a composer. When it's
Right.
a specific demo for a project, then
Mhm.
that's exactly what they are trying to do. They are trying to
Right.
find the music that's going
Combine.
to work for the project.
How
And
do
so
you
generally,
combine the music with them? Yes.
exactly. So generally, it's going to be just music. I like to
Right.
use either Disco or Real Crafter. I use Real
Mm-hmm.
Crafter to create. It's just basically it's a subscription thing for creating your demo reel, but it can also you can create an actual website looking type of demo reel where you've got your photo, your bio, your contact information, obviously your music, and also you can include videos if you love the music, you want to present your scoring skills. And also, the tool allows you to make your music downloadable or not. If it's downloadable, it also will include the metadata. The metadata will include your contact information and things like this. So if they, because sometimes what they will do is like you'll send the music, they listen to the music, maybe you don't get the project, but they will download your music and they will put into their catalog of not to use it, but catalog of
Right.
composers that have sent music. But maybe for 3 projects down the line, they are listening to their music and like, oh, this one works, who's this guy or this girl? They'll look at the metadata, they'll find your name, email, and phone number, and they'll contact you. So that's a little bit more tactical, but I would say I like 7 to 12 tracks in my demo reel, something like this.
How long? 3 minutes each?
Uh, you can have some 3 minutes. I like to keep it between 45 seconds to 90 seconds, something like this. You can break the rule, you can go 3 minutes, that is no problem. I generally edit my tracks, so when I've got my music, I still edit my tracks. Like if it's a cue that I want them to listen from beginning to end, awesome, fantastic. But generally, I go for the interesting part of the cue. Now, very
Right.
important. What does interesting mean? Background music is no interesting. No. Background music is very, very interesting. But if there's a cue that's clearly scoring, right, but there's no image to look at, and there are some parts where like there's a moment of silence or there's a moment of then I edit those parts and I make the track coherent for the listener, taking into consideration what they want. I generally like to start the tracks not with the intro, like the kind of like the soft sustained thing that leads to the beginning of the actual music. I start with the beginning of the actual music. I start with the theme. I start with whatever it is that track is selling, right? So I do edit the tracks, and I get them straight to the point, because they're gonna go like one track, 2-3 seconds, then they're gonna go to the middle of the track, next one, first 2-3 seconds, middle of the track. So I try to make them interesting for what I'm trying to sell, and that's pretty much it. I've got all like there's also discussing the order of the tracks is important, but then it depends on who's listening for what project, etc.
Right. So 8 tracks maybe is enough to
Yeah,
show.
yeah, a track is more than enough. Yeah, it's a great starting point. You could have more, and it depends. It's a demo reel. It's a piece of art. It's
Right.
there's
Yeah.
different approaches to this. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't. But also, I think the most important thing is speaking with them if you have an opportunity and asking what they are looking for, getting very clear on what they are looking for, and that's gonna help you capture a better demo reel.
Because I'm Mark, because I'm I'm involved with lately in the last few years playing with the symphony orchestras and chamber orchestras. So do you think it could be helpful if I post also the master score of the music?
The actual PDF of the score.
Yeah.
If they require, if something like this would help them with their decision, yes. Most of the cases, what they don't like a producer director, they don't know anything about the score. They just want to listen to the music.
Yeah.
But if you are demoing for another composer for additional music or orchestration, then yes, definitely.
Wow. Very good. Okay, very good. And about the info of the agencies, I heard before that I should look online, right? On internet.
Uh,
Agencies.
yes. So Variety Insights, most it's that one is expensive, very expensive.
Yeah.
But it's a private database that they clean that they curate. Then there's the public one, which is IMDb Pro. So there's IMDb and IMDb Pro. Pro is the paid one. I think it's 20 a month, something like this. But it's a public database. So sometimes the information can be not updated, but you do your due diligence and you can figure out. So for example, if you see that the production company hasn't been doing movies for the past 7 years, so you wouldn't,
Right.
so be a little bit more careful with that one, etc. Right? So then there's Deadline.com. Subscribe for for projects and things like this.
Uh-huh.
That is where, yeah, that is where I would start. Then there's if you are into video games, you can look for game jams as well. Moddb.com. Maybe I'll so IMDb Pro would be
Thank you. Yeah.
the first that I mentioned, right? And this I'm subscribed, and the way this works is, for example, companies, top movie company meter. Like for example, if you look at Mark at me, for example, and this is what I like to do when I sorry, this is what I like to do. Let's say that. Well,
Mark,
just
sorry, that's
yeah. Go ahead.
quickly, Daniel. Please post these information in Hub because it sounds like for everyone interesting. That would be great. So link summary, something like that, if possible.
Posting
Yes.
posting this information. Yes, definitely. So what we can do, Fede, if you can, as I'm just put this in the chat, and then when we post the chat on the group, it will also be the transcript with the links. So yeah, let's
Sure.
and Fede, can you find for me the Jose Cancela post that we have for the Momentum follow up that talks about, you know which one I mean? Okay, awesome. And share it with me in Slack, because I may forget some of the resources. So here's what I like to do: you find a composer that you like, and you go to credits, and it's like, what was the first movie that this girl or this guy did, right? And so, for example, for like the first actual movie, and for me was The Perfect Student 2011, and the same year I did Valentine's Day. Okay, cool, awesome. I like to go here, and I go to down here, right? And I look at the movie meter, and I go to all, and I'm like, okay, before, and you can see this spike, right? The spike is obviously the movie release. When the movie released, it spiked to close to 100. What is the movie meter? It just organizes the movies from the most famous to the least famous in this particular moment in time, right? So Dunkirk, for example, or The Lion King, when they released, they went number one, right? These big blockbuster movies go number one when they release. And if we go to IMDb Pro again, and we go to movie meter, titles, top movie meters, the number one right now is Fallout. Okay, makes sense. Okay, so this changes over time as new movies get released. Mine June. Okay, part 2 is in 10. So, and they can go very, very high even before they release, but when they release, they generally spike. And this is the perfect student. It was starring Natasha Hendricks, and when it released, it went 100 or close to 100. But, well, actually 120. But before it released, you can see that before the spike, this is in production. And in production, it was at level 21,000. You can see it up here. It says 21,000, something like this, 15,000. And you're like, okay, this is kind of like the range that it's reasonable. If this guy with no credits got their first movie at this range, I could start at this range. Awesome. So now you go to IMDb Pro, and this is how IMDb Pro, and this is how you would do it in IMDb Pro. It's got a lot of filters, and that's fun to use. But you would go here to titles, movie meter, and then you would go, okay, I want a movie in pre-production, right? Because obviously, if it's released, I stand no chance. Now this seems easier than it is. Like this is how you do it, but then you have to actually, like, that doesn't mean that you'll find a movie, you'll contact, and then you're like, yeah, we were looking for a composer. But for example, the movie meter range, it could be from 40,000 to 15,000, something like this. Title name contains filming location keywords, country of origin, languages, plot keywords, production, and release details. We're gonna open this one, and we want production development status. We want it in announce, develop, pitch, script. This is in development. Then we've got in production, so filming, and then we've got completed pre-production. We've got all the maybe we can say it's pre-production, something like this. So we've got this, and now we start seeing actually movies that are in pre-production, that are in 15,000, things like this, and we can organize them from high to low or from low to high. And there's the 40K, things like this, right? And it's like, okay, so this guy, Halloween Seasons of the Boogeyman, Lost Boys and Fairies, She Will Rise. So okay, so we've got movies here. This is a TV movie, it seems like. Biography drama, it's in 39,000. It is in pre-production, so I would click here. Okay, fantastic. So they've casted Elizabeth Moss, who's a very well-known actress, movie meter 59. Okay, but this is the only person here. This has been okay for almost one. Let's see, all. Here's where I will start the investigation. Okay, who's the production company? Blumhouse Television. Okay, this is big. And I would click here, look at the movies that they have done. Okay, yes, they have released a movie. Let me see. They have released a movie. I would have to 2023. So 2023. So these guys are active. Cool, awesome. These are the movies in development. Awesome. So okay, so these guys are serious. So this is what you would do. Okay, cool, awesome. Let's go back to the movie and let's take a look at the companies. Let's see. So we've got one production company. Okay, we also have. So we've got also another production company. We have no detailed information here. Okay, so we've got a phone number, and maybe in other cases you would have also an email. Sometimes if you have production company, then you have distribution company. For example, in this case, because I know this movie, the Perfect Student, if we go to companies, there's many of these. So I worked with Hybrid back then. I got the contact with Hybrid, not through Hybrid, but through another one. Make It Happen was the name of the company, and Hybrid was looking for or the music editor working for Hybrid was looking for a composer, and then Hybrid and Make It Happen was in the same building. I contacted with Make It Happen and I sent a demo, and then Andres, the music editor working in Hybrid, just stepped out of the office, went to this, like, I need a composer, do you know someone? It's like, well, this week just came this. there you go. Gave it to Andres. And the movie that I just finished yesterday, I still work on movies where Andres is the music editor. So, I've been working with Andres for the decade and a half, and it started like this. But as you can see, when you go to production companies, then there's we've got 3 production companies. The main one was Hybrid, but then there's also distribution. Usually these guys come later on, but in this case, or in many cases, you will find production distribution companies that are attached to the project from the very beginning, right? So Starth is the big one, but there's other production companies or distribution companies that you can contact with.
Right,
And
in Europe. Right.
there you go.
Yeah.
Just shoot them an email or a text or give them a call. Things like this is a good way to start. But just do your due diligence. You can do the same thing. So you can start with companies. So sorry, with movies like what I've done. But you can also start with, okay, let's make a little bit of investigation. So this was the first movie that this composer did. Okay, let's look at the cast a little bit. So okay, so this was the cast. Okay. Josie Davis, she went after she became a real estate agent. She's a real estate agent these days. But anyway, you just look at the cast, right? And it's like, okay, cool. So this person back in, or these actors back in, and you go the same thing. Back in 2010, when this movie was done, back in 2010, their star meter was, see, it spiked a little bit when the movie released. The star meter was at, kind of like 10,000s kind of thing. Then she did this movie, see, and boom, it went up a little bit, and now it's more in the 5,000, 7,000, things like this, right? So okay, so if I look for cast or actors at this movie meter, and I look at what type of movies they're working on, then this is kind of so you can do this. You can also do star meter, and what you would do is, for this movie, who was the director? Okay, let's go. Cast director was where is he? Yeah, Andres, that I was mentioning. But director, there you go. Yeah, Michael Pfeiffer. Fantastic. So Michael. So I just saw something. There you go. Jersey Shore Shark Attack. Yes, it was a movie that I worked on with these people as well. Lot of fun. But yeah, Michael Pfeiffer. You look at the star meter of him when he did this movie, and then you're like, okay, so there are also, you can, instead of using companies to try to look for project, you look for people. And his IMDb back then in 2010, down here, all 2010 was something at around between 29 and 12,000. So you look for directors, because you can do the same thing. You would go here, people, star meter, filter by directors with this kind of like a star meter, and some of them will have a profession, director, movie meter, etc. And yeah, there's also their phone number information, not for all of them, for some of them. That's it. So that's a way of doing it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Glad that it helped. Let me see more.
I'm having a little trouble finding that. What was exactly? It was a video or a picture. I don't remember.
A picture, but I may be able to find it, Fede. Don't worry. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Here. Give me just 1 sec. I'm gonna go. Let me just move this out of the way 1 second here. Oh no, this guy out of the way. And here. There you go. Okay. This is a very informative post. It was posted in Momentum recently, so I just wanted to. So So IMDb Pro we discussed here. Deadline.com. It's a website that
Yeah.
keeps you posted in regards to all the things that are going on in the industry. They are very quick and up to date. So to who is doing what and who to contact. So this is good. And then you can go into IMDb Pro. Mandy.com, a website that searches for talent for productions, all types of talent. I have found jobs here. This is a job from Jose Cancela.
Uh-huh.
And as I had mentioned, blah blah blah. The agent, no agent. You can. This is just the information tools for getting gigs and negotiating a price. And then there's realcrafter.com to create your reel. And I also Variety. It's not here, but Variety Insights. It's another one
Uh-huh.
for this. It's like IMDb Pro, but more expensive, like 10 times more expensive. Better quality, higher level quality of contacts.
Contacts, right.
Yeah,
You guys.
yeah.
Okay.
Where is it? Variety Insights. There you go. This one. I think at some Variety. They have a pricing. They have a version. What's this? There you go.
Uh-huh.
So this is these ones give you access to the big picture, but not the
Yeah.
actual information. And I think with the phone numbers and all that, it's more like hundreds.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. And this one is Variety, right?
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent information, Mark.
Oh, happy that this helped. All right.
Please. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have to go, but let's go with my pleasure, Mario. I gotta go, but Neil was there with the hand raised, so I'll go for one more question, and then
Yes, thank
is
you.
de nada, un placer, pleasure, Neil. If you are still there, if not, Neil, are you there? Did you have any question? All right, if not, maybe he disconnected. All right. Hey, just wanted to say thank you for everyone. I hope that this class was helpful, or at least
Okay,
not.
sorry about that.
Maybe he disconnected. All right.
No, it
Hey.
was technical.
Just wanted to say thank you for everyone. I hope that this class was what happens helpful, or at least
Okay,
not.
sorry about that.
Maybe he disconnected. All right.
No, it
Hey.
was technical.
Just wanted to say thank you for everyone. All right. I don't know what happened. Cool. All right. That makes it for a great ending for the class. Neil, if you had any question or technical, okay, cool, awesome. If you had any question, just post it in the group or whatever, or next class. Thanks everyone. Have a fantastic end of the week. Have a great weekend, and talk to you soon. All right. Bye bye.